Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory Srila Prabhupada. I welcome you all to His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj's daily call. I hope you all are well and enjoying a nice sunshine today. Today's our host is Her Grace Sridevi Mataji. And Sridevi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for coming online and giving us your association. I'm assuming today's verse is first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 12th chapter and 21st verse. Is that correct? Yes. Give me a second. I will share the screen.
Yeah, we had not completed the last two paragraphs of the purport. And so we decided to just complete that particular verse because there are so many exploits of Arjuna in that particular purport. So it went on for a long time.
That's fine. There you go. Yeah, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Should I stop here for the Sanskrit?
Yeah. I'll read the Sanskrit translation and then we'll go to the last part of the book. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mataji. Over to you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Gurudev. Thank you all so much for joining. It's wonderful to always have my God family to meet every day. And I am very blessed to have you here. I humbly request for your blessings, for your mercy, for your good wishes for me to do the service that has been given to me. Pancha kalpata rubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. There's a perfect uproar of bullfrogs going on because we have had a tremendous downpour. I don't know whether you can hear it, but it is such a loud background sound. So I'll try to speak as loudly as I can. I hope I'm clear. I don't know. You'll have to let me know.
You are very clear, Mataji. We can hear the thunder rain in the back end, but yes, you are quite clear.
Okay, good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashta Praeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Candramauli Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing our reading and completing this particular verse today. This is Canto 1, Chapter 12, entitled Birth of Emperor Parikshit, and verse number 21. Dhanvinam agraniresha tulyascha junayorgayaho Udasha iva nurdharsha samudra iva dustaraha. Translation: amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjun. He will be as irresistible as fire and as unsurpassable as the ocean. So this is Parikshit Maharaj, who is being glorified by the sages who have been invited by King Yudhishthira Maharaj, his grandfather, for celebrating his birth ceremony. Okay, then we are on the last two. Yes, we are right here. When his inimical cousin Duryodhan, that's the part we are at. Yes, was under the clutches of the Gandharvas. He wanted to save him and requested the Gandharvas to release Duryodhan. But the Gandharvas refused, and thus he fought with them and got Duryodhan released. Who is this? This is Arjun. Now, this purport is describing all Arjuns prowess, valor, bravery, his amazing feats of archery, his defeating so many great kings in battle, and all those things are being recounted here in this purport. So this is Arjun we are talking about here. And in the translation, it is said that Parikshit Maharaj will be as good as Arjun. He wanted to save him and requested the Gandharvas to release Duryodhana. The Gandharvas refused, and thus he fought with them and got Duryodhana released. When all the Pandavas lived incognito, he presented himself in the court of King Virat as a eunuch and was employed as the musical teacher of Uttara, his future daughter-in-law, and was known in the Virat court as Brihanala. As Brihanala, he fought on behalf of Uttara, the son of King Virat, and thus defeated the Kurus in the fight incognito. His secret weapons were safely kept in the custody of a shawi tree, and he ordered Uttara to get them back. His identity and his brother's identity were later on disclosed to Uttara. Dronacharya was informed of Arjun's presence in the fight of the Kurus and the Virats. Later on, battlefield of Kurukshetra, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjun killed many great generals like Karna and others. After the battle of Kurukshetra, he punished Ashwathama, who had killed all the 5 sons of Draupadi. Then all the brothers went to Bhishma Dev. It is due to Arjun only that the great philosophical discourses of the Bhagavad Gita were again spoken by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. His wonderful acts on the battlefield of Kurukshetra are vividly described in the Mahabharata. Arjun was defeated, however, by his son Babru Vahana at Manipur and fell unconscious when Ulupi saved him. That's his third wife. After the appearance of Lord Krishna, the message was brought by Arjun to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Again, Arjun visited Dwaraka, and all the widow wives of Lord Krishna lamented before him. He took them all in the presence of Vasudeva and pacified all of them. Later on, when Vasudeva passed away, he performed his funeral ceremony in the absence of Krishna. When Arjun was taking all the wives of Krishna to Indraprastha, he was attacked on the way, and he could not protect the ladies in his custody. At last, advised by Vyasadeva, all the brothers headed for Mahaprasthan. On the way, at the request of his brother, he gave up all important weapons as useless, and he dropped them all in the water. Om Agyana Timiram Dasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Arjun is very famous as a supreme archer. His skill in archery is unparalleled. The only person who could come somewhat close to his skill in archery was Karna. And so, to prevent Karna from taking part in the famous Draupadi Swayamvar, Draupadi declared that she will not entertain anybody who is less than a Kshatriya in birth. Now, no one knew that Karna was also a Kshatriya because he had been discovered by a charioteer and brought up by a charioteer couple. His birth was considered as that of a charioteer, which is lower than that of a Kshatriya. It's considered Shudra. And so that's how Karna could not compete in that particular competition, where his archery skill was almost equal to that of Arjun, and he could have easily won the hand of Draupadi, but she foiled that. So here we are seeing another incident. See what happened when the Pandavas were in exile. Duryodhana, being very mischievous, one day he decided to come with this huge army and picnic in the same area of where his cousins were, just to show off. Now it so happened that the Gandharvas, who are celestial beings, had also come over there with a huge retinue, and they were frolicking and playing in the water and having a good time. So when Duryodhana came over there, they didn't want to give up their picnic spot, so to speak. So a big battle ensued because Duryodhana, being very inimical towards everyone in general, he didn't have the good sense to go back. He decided to fight the Gandharvas, and he was no match for them. He was immediately captured and held as a prisoner. Now, seeing his pathetic condition, word got back to the Pandavas. And Bhima was rejoicing, Draupadi was rejoicing, but Yudhishthira said, no, 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 no. After all, this is a question of family honor. Whatever it is, we are one family. So we should go and rescue our cousin and not allow him to be shamed and humiliated like this. Besides, there are also a lot of ladies. And what will happen to them? So like this, Yudhishthira told his brothers, we must go and rescue him. In fact, he deputed Arjun to go and fight the Gandharvas. And lo and behold, Arjun actually fought with the Gandharvas and defeated them. He's a mere mortal, so to speak, but he's extremely powerful because he has divine celestial weapons and the command of those weapons. And he's a very skilled archer. And he's the son of Indra, king of heaven. So he asked them first to release Duryodhana. They refused. So he fought with them and defeated them. And then he got Duryodhana released. So Duryodhana was very much obliged to Arjuna for this favor. And he became so pleased with him. And that's when he said, any boon you want from me, you can ask, and I will grant it to you. So Arjuna said, well, I will keep that on hold for now. When I want the boon, I will ask for the boon. And that's how in the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna went and asked Duryodhana to give the 5 special arrows that Bhishma had given to him, because Bhishma had taken a vow and he's going to kill the Pandavas the next day with these 5 special arrows on being taunted by Duryodhana. He said, you're not fighting to your full capacity. You have a soft spot for the Pandavas, so you're going easy on them and you're not doing your best. So Bhishma was very incensed. He was very furious. And he said, tomorrow I will kill all 5 Pandavas with these 5 special arrows. And he gave them to Duryodhana for safekeeping. Now Krishna, as the indwelling super soul, knows everything that is going on. So what does he do? He told Arjun, now is the time to ask for your boon. Go to Duryodhana and say, do you remember? You had to offer me a boon. And Duryodhana will say, yes. He said, please give me those 5 arrows. And Duryodhana cannot refuse because the Kshatriya is very proud of being giver of charity. Once they say yes, they will give something, they will give something. They keep their word of honor. So Arjun goes across in the evening to meet Duryodhana and say, my dear brother Duryodhana, I have come to ask you something. Yes, what is it you want? Do you want the battle to be stopped? Do you want this? Do you want that? So Arjun says, no, no. I just want those 5 special arrows that have been given to you by Bhishma. So Duryodhana is amazed that he has come to know, but he cannot go back on his word. And he has given his word that he will give him whatever he asks. He had given him that boon also. And so he, without hesitation, gives all the 5 arrows to Arjuna. This is the Kshatriya spirit, code of honor among Kshatriyas. When Bhishma Dev comes to know of this, he starts laughing. Says this can only be the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what is destined to happen will happen. Nothing can change destiny as per the wishes and desires of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So he knows that it's Krishna behind all of this. So that's how Arjuna is rewarded by Duryodhana for saving him in the battle against the Gandharvas. So that was a very great feat. Then the next incident here is, why did he become a eunuch? That's also very interesting. You see, the terms of the exile was 12 years you have to live in a forest, and the 13th year you should live disguised and no one should be able to discover your disguise. That means if someone discovers who you really are, then you have to go into exile for another 12 years. So in the very last year, the Pandavas have to become extremely clever to hide their real personalities. They were very brave and very powerful warriors. It's not so easy to disguise yourself like that, isn't it? But they chose the kingdom of Matsya, and the king was Virat, and they each went in a different disguise. Yudhishthir Maharaj became an advisor disguised as a Brahmana. He knew very well how to advise the king. He was very well versed in Dharma Shastra. And by that time, he had mastered the skill of playing dice. So he said, my dear king, I will teach you so many things and I will be your advisor. So the king accepted him as a Brahmana in his court. Bhima, because he has a voracious appetite and loves to eat, he decided to become the head cook in the king's palace. And so he was working in the kitchens as a head cook. Arjun, interestingly, took on the role of a eunuch. Actually, he became a eunuch because he was cursed by Urvashi, the celestial Apsara in the heavenly kingdom of Indra. She cursed him to become a eunuch. That's another interesting story. When Arjun helped the demigods in their fight against some demons, Nivatakavacha to be exact, the demigods were very pleased with him, and he went in his very same body all the way to the heavenly kingdom, and he was honored in the palace, in the fort of King Indra, and he was given a half elevated seat next to Indra to sit. And then all the entertainment girls were there singing and dancing and everything. And there was this beautiful Apsara called Urvashi. Now, Urvashi, when she saw Arjun, she fell in love. She immediately desired to have him, to have union with him. And she approached him and she expressed her heart's desire. And she said, "You're such a beautiful man. I'm so in love with you. And I want to be united with you," etc. So Arjun listened to her very politely and respectfully, but he rebuffed her. He says, "You're like my mother," because she was actually a consort of Indra. She was one of his, girlfriends, so to speak. So Indra being his father, his girlfriend becomes his mother, right? So he refused. He said, "I cannot break the codes of conduct. You're like my mother. So how I can, unite with you?" So Urvashi convinces him, tries to convince him, saying, "We are Apsaras, we are celestial maidens. We can choose any person out of our own free will to be with and to unite with." And he still refuses. So she gets very angry. There's a saying, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." So because he scorns her, rebuffs her, advances, she curses him. "You will become a eunuch. You will have to live amongst women. And you will forego, all your manliness, etc." But then Indra persuades her to modify or soften that curse. So she says, "All right, it will be only for the period of 1 year." So now that curse comes in handy because he can now disguise himself as a eunuch. And he decides to become a dance teacher, teaching singing and dancing to the young princess Uttara, the daughter of King Virat. And therefore, he's always in the midst of women and hiding out there. And so nobody knows he's actually the supreme archer, Arjuna, because who will think a eunuch can be Arjun? So that's his perfect disguise. Draupadi decides to take on the name Sairandri, and become the queen's helpmate. That means she assists the queen. She's like a servant to the queen, a maid to the queen. So she decides to take on that role. And Nakul and Sahadev decide to help out in the stables. Nakul decides to offer care to all the horses because he's an expert horseman. And Sahadev decides to offer his services in taking care of the cows. So this is the way they disguise themselves. But in those days, people who had very nice cows, the kingdom had very nice cows, they were frequently attacked by other kings who wanted the cows in their own kingdom. So there was a huge herd of cattle, 60,000 very beautiful cattle, very, very beautiful cows giving rich, creamy, thick milk. was sought after for their pedigree, their breed, etc. And the king of the Trigarta decided to attack the king of Matsya, that is Virat, where these Pandavas were hiding. And the king took off with his army to protect his cows, and he was fighting them at the southeast. So meanwhile, the Kurus decided to help out the Trigartas by attacking from the north. But there was nobody. The king had gone off with his army, and there was only young Prince Uttar left in the kingdom to fight against the Kurus. What to do now? So Uttar says, I need a charioteer. I cannot go into battle without a charioteer. So Arjun volunteers. He tells his wife, Draupadi, who is Sairandri, go tell the prince that I can be his charioteer. Says, what? That you know? Says, yes, yes, he's very famous. He has helped Arjun also. He's Arjun himself, but she says like that. So he agrees and he goes out. The prince goes out to battle with Arjun as his charioteer. But when he goes out into the battlefield and he sees the huge army of the Kurus, and all very brave, very valorous warriors, there's Karna, there's Duryodhan, there's Dushasan, there's all the Kaurava princes, then there's Drona, there's Bhishma, there's Kripacharya, there's all tremendously powerful warriors. He starts shaking in fright and he says, turn back, let's go back. I cannot fight with these people. They're too much for me. And so then Arjuna rebukes him and says, what is this? You're a prince. It is better to die in battle than turning around and fleeing like a coward. Don't worry, I will fight the battle. You become my charioteer. And he drives him and he says, let's go to the Sami tree in which they have hidden all the celestial weapons. What they did was, because they were in exile, they had to hide all their weapons. So they, wrap up all these celestial weapons in such a way that they look like corpses in a tree, and they hide it in a tree. But people in those days were very scared of corpses and touching. It was considered very unclean. So nobody went near that tree, nobody touched those weapons. So he said, let's go to that tree, go up that tree, get all those weapons and come down quickly. So Uttar says, no, these are corpses, these are not weapons. So Arjun says, no, these are weapons, just bring them down and unwrap them, I'll show you. Then one by one, all these glittering, beautiful weapons are unwrapped, and the prince is struck with wonder, says, who are you? And then Arjun reveals that I am actually Arjun and these are my divine weapons. Then the prince feels very much, enlivened, enthused and encouraged. He says, oh, with Arjun by my side, I can do battle. So then Arjun arms himself with the Gandiva bow, and when he blows the conch shell, immediately the Kurus know, this is no eunuch, this is Arjun himself. And Arjun goes into battle. Single-handedly, he routs the entire Kaurava army and decimates them or sends them fleeing. And he brings back all the 60,000 heads of cattle and comes back with the prince. And the king is beside himself with joy. He's telling everybody, look at my son. He's so valorous. He did this. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj tells him, Brihanala, the dance teacher, there's no one equal to him. He is the supreme archer. He is so valorous in battle that nobody can defeat him. And the king Virat gets irritated and angry. He says, here I'm glorifying my son and you're telling Brihanala is the one who did everything? What nonsense. And they're playing a game of dice and he throws the dice at Yudhishthira's face. The dice are very heavy and large and they hit him on the nose and his nose starts bleeding. Now Arjuna has taken a vow. If anybody harms his elder brother and the blood flows and touches the ground, he will finish off the person who did it. So as soon as the blood starts flowing from his nose, immediately Yudhishthira asks Draupadi to give some cloth to stem the flow of blood. He says, don't let this blood fall to the ground and don't tell Arjun what has happened, because if he comes inside and sees this, he will kill everybody in this room. So they are returning from the battle. So immediately Draupadi runs and manages to fend him off and send him in another direction so that he doesn't come to know what has happened to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Later on, 3 days after this whole battle, they reveal who they are because 1 year is up And now they come out of their disguise in full, beautiful, royal attire, looking like shining warriors, which they are. And King Virat is amazed to see that they are not what he thought they were. They're actually the Pandava princes. And he feels very embarrassed that what he had done. He profusely begs for forgiveness and he offers his daughter Uttara as a wife to Arjun. And Arjun says, I'm like her father. She's like a daughter to me. I was her teacher. So it is not right that I marry her, but she can marry my son. She can be my daughter-in-law. And that is how Uttara marries Abhimanyu. And that is how she gets pregnant with Parikshit Maharaj, the hero of our story right now that we are reading about. So that's how Arjun wins the battle. Single-handedly, he defeats millions of soldiers and all the big warriors of the Kuru dynasty. Just see what a powerful warrior. It is said that when Arjun starts shooting his arrows, you cannot even see his arms moving. He's so swift. He could let loose 500 arrows at one time. He was that swift. And you could not even see when he took out the arrow from the quiver, when he put it to the bow, when he released it. It was lightning fast. Nobody could even make out when he released the arrow. He would set off arrow like a stream, a stream of arrows would just go out of his quiver. He was that expert in archery. So that's about his skill and how he helped Uttar, the prince, in the battle to get the cows back. So Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Duryodhan, Dushasana, they all suspected this has got to be Arjun. They said, well, we have blown their cover and now we can send them again into exile. But actually, the time was up, so they were perfectly safe. They had fulfilled all the requirements of exile. Later on, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjun killed many great generals like Karna and others. After the battle of Kurukshetra, he punished Ashwatthama by cutting off the jewel on his head, cutting off his hair, cutting off his mustache, cutting off all the features of manliness, and thus humiliated, shamed him, and thus punished him for what he had done. He had killed the 5 sons of Draupadi. Now, it is interesting that Arjun, in the course of battle, Bhishma had taken a vow that he will never fight with a woman. That was also the rule, that man will not fight with a woman. Ambika was a prince who came back as the warrior Shikhandi by performing severe sacrifices, immolating herself, and coming back as a half man, half woman in order to fight the battle of Kurukshetra to kill Bhishma because he had refused her hand in marriage. She was so affronted, she was so humiliated, she was so outraged that Bhishma Dev stuck to his vow of celibacy, that she said, I will now kill myself and I will take my next birth as a warrior just to kill you. So Bhishma knew that Shikhandi is actually Ambika in the previous birth, the princess Ambika. And he refused to do battle with him, knowing that he's actually a woman come back as a man. So what happened was, Arjun very cleverly covered for Shikhandi in such a way that Shikhandi could go and let loose a volley of arrows on Bhishma and thus render him, helpless. That's how he fell down on the battlefield. He wasn't killed because he had the power to die at his own will, but he was rendered helpless by so many arrows piercing his body. So, because it was done like that, the Vasus, the brothers of Arjun and Mother Ganga, whose son he is, were very angry and upset with Arjun. They said that this is done by treachery. By trickery, Arjun allowed Shikhandi to get to him. Otherwise, nobody could defeat Bhishma. So we also will curse him. So Ganga Devi cursed him that you also will be killed by your son in battle. See how fierce this cursing, counter cursing is. Now, Ullupi, the queen of Arjun, hearing this curse, she was a Naga princess. she lived underwater. Her father was Kartavirya or Kritavirya. I forget the name. But she was actually a Naga princess who lived underwater in the underwater kingdom. So when she heard of this curse, she went to Ganga Devi and implored her to forgive Arjuna. So Ganga Devi said, all right, I will soften the curse. Babruvahana, who is Chitrangada's son, will kill him, but will be able to knock him unconscious, almost killing him. But you will be able to revive him by placing the Nagmani jewel on his chest. Now she's a princess. She's a Naga princess herself. So she has access to the Nagamani. Some people say that she could administer something called Mrita Sanjeevani, which brings back people to life. So we will see that in the next paragraph over here. His wonderful acts on the battlefield of Kurukshetra are vividly described in the Mahabharata. Arjuna was defeated, however, by his son Babruvahana at Manipur and fell unconscious when Ulupi saved him. Now this princess, she fell in love with Arjuna and married him. She had a son, Iravan, who was killed in battle, but she also was very close to the son of Chitrangada, who is Babruvahana, and she practically raised him and taught him all the art of warfare, made him a warrior because she was also a warrior princess. So when Babruvahana almost killed Arjuna in a battle, which was after the Kurukshetra war, when the Ashwamedh sacrifice was to happen, the horse was going everywhere and Arjuna was following it. And Babruvahana challenged the horse and refused to submit to the rule of Yudhishthira. And so therefore there was a big battle and Arjuna fell unconscious. So that's the time Ulubi comes with that Nagmani. Some say Nagmani, some say Mrita Sanjeevani, and she saved his life. So this is how the warrior princes were. Now we come to the disappearance of Lord Krishna. Arjuna was sent to Dwaraka by Maharaj Yudhishthira to find out how is everything in Dwaraka, how is Krishna, what is going on, is everything okay? There are some ill omens, is he left this world already, like that. So Arjuna goes and then 7 months he doesn't come. But finally when he comes back, just seeing his downcast, sad and fallen face, Yudhishthira knows that Krishna has left the planet, and that is why Arjuna is so downcast. And Arjuna goes on to say, yes, because of Krishna, I was so powerful, but I was helpless when the cowherd men decided to steal, kidnap the wives of the Lord. I was unable to do anything. I was helpless. Though I'm such a powerful warrior, I was rendered helpless. Now that's also an interesting story. See, some of the beautiful celestial maidens of heaven, they wanted Krishna as their husband. So they performed a lot of tapasya and they pleased Ashtavakra Muni. And he said, okay, you will get Krishna as your Supreme Lord, as your husband. But because Ashtavakra was, crooked in 8 places, when he walked, it was a very strange walk, it was very grotesque and very funny. So the maidens started laughing, seeing his walk. So Ashtavakra Muni got very angry. And he says, you will get kidnapped by rogues, even if you are the Lord's wives. So in order to keep the curse intact, the Lord himself came as those rogues and kidnapped his own wives. That's what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says. He said, the wives of the Lord cannot be touched by anyone. So in order to keep the words of that Muni intact, Krishna himself came as those rogues, kidnapped his own wives, and Arjuna was helpless. He couldn't do anything. He was attacked, and then, of course, it was actually the Lord himself. Now, finally, we come to the last pastime where Yudhishthira Maharaj retires from kingly, princely life, and they all head northwards. It is said that they go to Mahaprasthan in order to give up their attachments to this world and go back home, back to Godhead. So Yudhishthira Maharaj himself gives up everything. He dresses, it is said, in just very bare, basic, simple clothes. His hair is all matted. He doesn't shave. He just goes like a madman, it is described, off detaching himself completely from his kingdom, from his wealth, from his treasury, from his riches, from his army, from his brothers, from his wives, from his mother, from everyone, and heads up north to give up his body. And then all these brothers also follow him, and one by one they give up their bodies. It is said like this, so that they can go back home, back to Godhead. Because Krishna is left, they also want to leave, and they all do that, including Kunti, including Draupadi. They all simply meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord and go back to Krishna. So that's a little something about Arjun, a very brave and very powerful warrior. Even today, children are named after him, boys. They like to, especially devotees, they like to call their children Arjun. And there's a good reason, because he was a very powerful Kshatriya. He strictly followed all the dharmic principles and conducted himself with great valor, chivalry, dharma, and character and integrity. So thank you all so very much. Hare Krishna. We can now open up for comments, questions, realizations, corrections, whatever you like.
Thank you, Sridevi Mataji. As always, your class was so engaging and entertaining. It was today is so many stories from Mahabharata. Thank you. It was so nice hearing that after a long, long time. I mean, some of the stories, maybe past times, I didn't even knew. So it was very nice to know that I could relate it one after another each pastime, because we knew the stories, here and there, some of them like not in connection with everything. So thank you.
It's so interesting. As I was preparing for class, I was thinking, wow, there's so much to read. Mahabharata, you can just get lost in the Mahabharata. One incident leads to another, like that. Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Even Ambika, Ambalika, and Amba, the three princesses, is very interesting. But anyway, we will talk about Arjuna right now.
Thank you. Yes, Tirtha Mataji, you have a question or your hand is up? Or maybe I'm not sure. She's not there at the desk, I guess. Devotees, if you have any question, comment, realization, please unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it in the chat and I can ask it for you. Yes, Namrata Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Dear Guru Maharaj, all glories to the wonderful devotees and your wonderful service, Mataji. So my question was,
my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our Gurudev, and all glories to our wonderful God family. And God brothers and sisters.
Mataji, we have heard previously in the, I don't know which chapter, where Dhritarashtra was leaving the palace when he was chastised by Vidura. I think it comes later in this canto itself, but they head towards north. I want to know about this. What does it mean when they're saying that they head towards north to give up their life and they give up their attachments and all that?
My understanding is that Himalayas, the north, the Himalayas are, and it is said in the higher realms are where celestial beings, sages live, and in that purified atmosphere, it is easier to think about the Lord. It is easier to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord and give up your body. That's why they head towards the Himalayas.
Okay. So Kshatriyas at that time, they didn't used to get this kind of, either they used to die in the war, or either they used to give a body like this. They weren't attacked by some disease or something, unless caused. So
that's right.
Yeah.
They died in the
Himalayas means. Sorry, please continue.
No, go ahead.
So heading towards Himalayas means giving up the body through Ashtanga Yoga. by meditation, by in going to the Himalayas. I'm a little confused when this term is used. So I was just clarifying.
Yes, because they all knew that meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord is the only way to get released from the cycle of birth and death. They all meditated on the lotus feet of Krishna, including Draupadi, including Kunti. They knew that this was the only way. And they had been actually Krishna had been preparing them by putting them through vanvas, by putting them through all those things. They were slowly getting purified and more attached to Krishna. And so they were totally fixed. When the time came to give up their body, they were fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Namita Mataji. Yes, Shilpesh Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept mine, Shilpesh Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Gurudev.
I wanted to ask, the Mahabharata is meant for the everyday person, somebody who's not interested in Dharma necessarily. And obviously, you know, this all happened 5,000 years ago, and it seemed like it was a very different world then. You know, when you have like all these celestial beings and stuff that we don't encounter anymore.
Yes.
So in some
Celestial
ways,
beings would come to this planet, and from this planet, mortal beings would visit the heavenly kingdom like that. Katvanga, Arjuna, like that. Yes.
so a lot of people today would read it or hear
Go
it.
ahead.
It sounds very far-fetched. So how would they extract the philosophy from it and understand how to apply it in their lives?
Sorry?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in some ways, the Mahabharata for the everyday person today, it sounds very far-fetched what happened. They would say it's fiction. So how would they extract the philosophy from the teachings to apply to their own lives?
You mean the people who were in the Mahabharata?
No, today you have people reading it today or hearing it today.
You mean how we can believe those stories?
Yeah, and use it in our daily lives.
Yeah, because all these things which happen have a lesson. All the events of the Mahabharata are there to teach us lessons on how people conduct themselves, what they did, how the devotees of the Lord behaved, how those who are inimical to religious principles, how they behave, what happened to them. Sorry. All this is for us to learn lessons. You know, because Duryodhan always hated and envied the Pandavas. They had no right to the kingdom. They had no right to the kingdom. Dhritarashtra was born blind. The kingdom was actually Pandu's. But Pandu had been cursed. And then he gave up his life in the forest. So, therefore, the princes could not rule because they were very young. So, Dhritarashtra was brought back to rule in place of the princes till they grow up to inherit the kingdom. So, actually, the kingdom was rightfully the Pandavas. But because Dhritarashtra became so greedy and wanted his own sons to have the kingdom, which was unlawful, therefore everything took place. He was a weak father, he was a weak king, and he did not know how to curb his senses and mind and control it for the good of the people, for the good of his children. He lost all his 100 sons in the battle. You see? So we learn many lessons from how people conduct themselves. People who cannot control their senses, they cannot be trusted. While on the other hand, we see how the Pandavas conducted themselves. And what was the end result for them? Krishna was always with them because they were always following Dharma. They never cheated, they never told lies, they never did anything, wrong. So all of these are actually lessons for us to learn.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Thanks, Sripesh Prabhu. Any other question from anyone? Otherwise, I have a question while we wait for others. Sridevi Mataji. So my question was, as far as I remember and what I've heard from others is, Mahabharata was first written by Ganesh Ji. Is that correct? But was it dictated by Srila Vyasdev?
Yes, it was dictated by Vyasadeva and was written down by Ganesh Ji, who engaged him in writing down the Mahabharata. And Ganesh Ji agreed, saying, I will write it down provided you never stop speaking. You must speak continuously, then only I will write. So Vyasadeva countered that by saying, I will speak continuously provided you understand what I spoke and then only write. So he would speak in such a way, he would Sanskrit shlokas in such a way, in such an intriguing way, that Ganesh Ji had to stop and think before writing it down. And that time interval, Vyasadeva used come with the next two shlokas, so that he was continuously speaking, but Ganesh Ji had to stop, think, and then write it down. So that was how it happened.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I want to check. Thank you.
Nice.
And devotees, any other questions? Mahabharata related?
Hare Krishna, I was just confused. This is with Srimad Bhagavatam or with Mahabharata? And
Mahabharata, no, Mahabharata itself, not Srimad. Srimad Bhagavatam was written personally by Vyasadeva.
Oh, okay. I thought this happened with when he was writing Srimad Bhagavatam.
No. He wrote Bhagavatam and then he was morose. That's when Narad Muni came and said, yes, because you have not described the pastimes of the Lord. So that's when he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. He was writing all the things for the good of mankind, because people had, deteriorated so much. In the very olden days, they didn't need books. Whatever was spoken was immediately absorbed and remembered. Smriti. This power was so strong that simply by hearing, people got knowledge. There were no books. But understanding that the people of Kali are very degraded and they cannot grasp everything, Vyasadeva then made the Vedas into 4. And he wrote all the books that are required for mankind, the Vedas. Then the cream of the Vedas, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, he was trying to write, but he was not satisfied. And then Narad Muni said, yes, you are not satisfied because you have not glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his leelas, his feats. So then when Srimad Bhagavatam was written describing the Lord and his leelas, his pastimes, then Vyasadeva was pleased.
Thank you for the clarification, Mataji. I was confused between both these things. Thank you. Also, one more thing I wanted to ask, I'm not ask, but comment that what Sripesh Prabhuji was trying to say. I could remember when we were, young or, in our teenage, our elders used to say that in the present current society, human society, you will find some or the other character which you can relate in Mahabharata. So this is the best way to study Mahabharata. Some or the other character, there are all kind of characters which you can find, and you can relate, you can find solution to that. So this is how they used to give us exercise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Helps Sripesh Prabhu.
So yes, thank you, Mataji. I really, really like that. And just thinking of like our royal family here, I think we've got all sorts of characters there. So you can just see how it seems to be quite relevant today as well. That's true. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Sukama Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Sridevi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our Guru Maharaj, and all glories to assembled devotees. Sorry, my camera is a bit playing up today, so I won't be able to put the cameras on. Please forgive me. I have a question, not actually a question, but I was wondering that in time of Mahabharata, when Krishna was there as well, all these religion sort of a thing was happening, isn't it? Which is a bit of surprising that in that yuga, where it's not even a Kali Yuga, and it was all these things was happening. So I can't even imagine how Kali Yuga will be, isn't it? It'll be so bad if the Dwapar Yuga was that bad. That's what I think. How can we describe the Kali Yuga?
Yeah, just imagine, they're trying to disrobe a queen.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That it is not happening now. It was happening that time. So, God, how bad will it be?
How bad is the present day? Rapes, murders against women. This is all coming from that.
Yeah.
I was in class, Bhakti Vasudev Maharaj was giving class. I said, how is it that men misbehave so much with women? What is the reason? And he said, it is wrong. It is lust compels men to misbehave with women.
True.
So imagine those days they were, big warriors. They had some code of conduct, but yet they misbehaved. What to speak of now? There's no code of conduct, and there's tremendous atrocities against women, dowry deaths, burning women, throwing acid on their faces. Domestic violence is so severe in so many Asian countries.
True.
Choking, strangling, beating, throwing acid on her face, setting her on fire, beating her routinely. All this goes on. Domestic severe problem. And in America, I don't know the statistics of India, they say that more women are killed due to intimate partner violence than are killed in car accidents.
My God.
Yeah, this is a statistic. How much rage there is against women, and how men use their superior strength to, attack women because of their own unresolved anger for so many reasons, Women become the target, women and children.
Unfortunately, yes, we are always, isn't it?
Yeah, youth is a very bad age. Children are being targeted, both boys and girls. It's not that only girl children, even boys are being assaulted sexually. 1 in 3 girls is having sexual assault happen to her. 1 in 6 boys has sexual assault happen to him. And human trafficking, don't ask. There's so much human trafficking going on among the vulnerable people, young boys, young girls, everything, it's like unprecedented. You don't even want to know. It's horrific. You must have heard of the Kerala story, right? Where they are capturing innocent Hindu girls, forcibly converting them into Muslims, marrying them off, and then making them suicide bombers.
No, I didn't hear that. Was it?
You haven't heard? Oh my God. No. It's like now famous in India. It's called, there was a movie made about it called the Kerala Story, and several girls who luckily were deprogrammed from that. They said, this is exactly what happens to us in colleges. This is exactly how they lure us, and they sort of prey on our innocent minds. They tell us, what is your Hindu culture teaching you that an elephant god, can a god have an elephant head? And what kind of god is Krishna? He marries so many wives. And how Ram, if he is such a great god, how did he banish his wife? And then these girls don't have any answers. And so they start off. Islam is the only religion, and Islam protects its women. That's why we wear burqa. Nothing happens to us. You women wear all kinds of clothes, and so on, so on, so on. Brainwashing. And slowly the child becomes totally brainwashed into becoming a Muslim.
Oh my God.
if you have read it, it's called Love Jihad. This is the newest thing doing the rounds over here. They capture innocent souls and then they make targets for their own evil schemes and sacrifice their lives. They are trained to become ISIS, suicide bombers and whatnot, terrorists, and that's it.
Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah, all kinds. I mean, Kali Yuga is a horrific age. Don't ask. The things that like mind blowing. You can't imagine at what scale evil is being perpetrated. And that is why it is so important for us as devotees to somehow or the other give the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, because the world is on fire.
You're so right. Yeah. We don't have
World-
we have only got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for this 10,000 years golden time period.
Exactly. This is the only thing that is going to save the world. And Prabhupada said, you have become fortunate. Now go and make the unfortunate fortunate.
True.
Because they are unfortunate, they are lost, they don't know anything. And it's very, very tragic situation where, you know, the future generations are being harmed like this. Imagine what these children are being subjected to and what their minds will become as a result of all this. We are creating things over here. So the abusers go on to become abusers to survive.
Yeah. You can see on the TV news and stuff that, after doing all those human trafficking and exploiting the children, still they are saying they are innocent. They should not be punished and they should not be this and they should not.
Yeah.
It's horrible. What are you talking about? Like, you feel, are you serious?
Yeah, exactly. So much violence is happening in America, people taking guns, shooting innocent people.
Yeah.
The daughter was telling me that her classmate, very beautiful, bright, very intelligent girl, she came to do her master's, Bengali girl, to America, she did her master's, then she did a PhD somewhere along the way. Somehow she met an American boy, she married him. 3 years later, she's dead. He shot her in her own home.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And who's this? I just missed that name.
Her name is Nabaruna. Nabaruna is beautiful young Bengali girl married to an American man, and he was a little changed, mentally afflicted, something, and in their own home he shot her dead with a gun. Yeah. So all kinds of things going on out there, all kinds of things. Don't ask. It's crazy. And because it was close to home, my daughter was so affected because this was a friend. But come visit home, talk with her. They had been friends for a while, so it was very, very devastating.
I can imagine how she must be feeling.
Yeah, it was very difficult for her for some time.
I think Scarlett Mataji has got some question. So,
No, I think she's saying that she needs to leave.
Oh, okay.
She needs to leave.
No problem.
Yeah, I know. We just pray for each other.
There's a very great need for spreading this Krishna consciousness. Somehow or the other, give the mercy, give prasad, give the book, give the holy name, something, and connect them to Lord Chaitanya's movement. Somehow or the other, in our own small, humble way, whatever we can do to make a difference to this world, Lord Chaitanya becomes very pleased. Srila Prabhupada becomes very pleased. Even a little effort.
True.
Because really the world is on fire.
It is actually. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, the lust and greed of corporations is a manifestation of the evil in people's hearts, Raping Mother Earth, destroying forests. 1 football acre per second of the Amazon rainforest is finished just for paper mills. And by 2030, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish.
True.
Think about that.
Mm.
It's like polluting the whole earth.
Nobody. And you think this campaign is going on to save the world and this and that, but what is happening? Results is nothing, isn't it?
Global warming, cyclones, hurricanes, and the unrestricted killing of innocent animals. Cow
True.
killing, goat killing, chicken killing, egg killing. What is all this? This is now the reality. We are getting all this horrible crimes against God's children. They are also God's children.
Of course they are, yeah. We can try our level best, isn't it?
Yeah, we have 1 hour past. So
Yeah.
if there is no other questions, should we stop here, Sridevi Mataji?
Sure. If there are no more questions, no more comments, we can stop right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and association, Mataji. It was really nice. Interesting.
Thank you for
and fun class.
tolerating me.
No. Thank you for tolerating us.
kind.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for lovely class.